From Tally to Cali,
It's time
to wake up.
Wake up! Wake up!
Warchant.com is your ultimate Seminole sports source.
And this is Wake Up Warchant, presented by Corner Pocket Bar and Grill.
One ball, corner pocket.
Now here's Warchant.com's Aslan Hajavandi.
And Corey Clark.
Wake up! What is up? It is Wake Up Warchant. It is presented by Corner Pocket Bar and Grill, cptallybar.com. Corey, what's the Boom Boom Room? I heard there's something called the Corey Clark Boom Boom Room at Corner Pocket Bar and Grill.
Yeah, we don't talk about that, Aslan.
Okay, we don't.
But yeah, there is one, obviously. It's my place. It's where I'm at. Saturday night, bit of a late night for old Clark Dog. Might have to pivot. Might have to change up strategies.
Okay, vodka again to you, huh? Yeah.
Well, I just, I think essentially, I'm not used to drinking liquor. And so maybe I have to moderate that a little better. But I had a nice Uber ride home, so everything worked out. Got to celebrate a big Noles win there. Got to watch Mike Krzyzewski lose his final game at Cameron at Corner Pocket. And ate a great grilled chicken sandwich because all their food is really good.
Corner Pocket Bar and Grill. Check them out, everybody. cptallybar.com. They're off the Appalachia Parkway in Tallahassee, Florida. Warchant.com, your ultimate Seminole sports source. Promo code WARCHANT30 gets you a free month of content subscription to the ultimate Seminole sports source. But in the meantime, while you're getting your affairs in order, just hit the thumbs up button, like us, subscribe to our YouTube channel. No credit card needed for that, unless you want to do a super chat later. But, you're not obligated by any point. And also on the Apple iOS devices, your 5-star ratings and reviews are always appreciated. Shout out to all those who have left some here recently. We certainly appreciate you. For real. Especially when you wash out all the haters. Super cool. All right, Corey, let's get to it. We got a jam-packed show. Noles and Indy showing out at the Combine. Basketball still rolling. Baseball wins a series against a Power 5 opponent. Although, do we even really use the term Power 5 when it comes to baseball? Rhetorical question. And softball has a little bit of a hiccup, but hey, you can't win them all. You could, but it's just totally unlikely. Let's get to spring football. Corey, we'll be back out there later on Monday. Afternoon practices have returned to the universe of Tallahassee, Florida. We're joining the rest of civilization and having these practices while the sun is up the entire time. That's pretty cool. So we'll go Monday, Wednesday, Friday out there. Team takes 9 days off, and they'll get back at it. So we saw them in nothing but jerseys and shorts and helmets on Saturday. You and Jeff, very effusive in your praise. This is where it's going to get a little bit tricky, Corey. I've been I'm domed up because our guy Giovanni the other day was, retorted to me on Twitter about, look at all these stories. Look at all these good things you guys have said in the past, and none of them come to fruition. And I'm just like, damn, you're right, man. So I don't want to be more negative than I am, but how much could you really take out of that first day? You and Jeff were very, very sort of enthusiastic and happy with what you saw. What were you looking for? What did you see that made you be so, bubbly in your praise of what's going on out there?
Number one, I don't think that is a fair description.
Okay.
I don't think we were effusive of what we saw as much as how many people we saw. It's not like you saw, what can you tell from helmets?
Right.
So it wasn't like we're like, guys, this is an 8 or 9 win team. And last year we didn't say that either. But the difference is there are so many numbers out there. There's numbers. I mean, there's literally, like Ira wrote in his 3-2-1, they had 3 teams of offensive linemen. Legitimately, a first, a second, and a third team. It's like last year in the spring, it seemed like at times there were 9 guys total out there. Now you've got 15 guys on a first, second, and third team and a couple left over. That's how many guys you got out there. And you had a couple of guys that have played, started multiple games at Florida State, essentially working in the third team secondary. That to me is that's how you build a program, man, right? Not that these guys are great players and they're relegated to third team, but that's how you build competition, and that's how you're not just playing guys because that's all you got. You actually have to go win these spots and earn these spots, and you have legitimate depth, which is something they have not had, and they got it at the receiver in the receiver room too. So that's what was so encouraging to me, is it just looked like a real football practice again with real bodies, real scholarship players at multiple positions. They're not, again, it was a helmet, it was a shoulder padsless practice. There was no tackling, obviously, but I did like what I saw out of Benson, the way he moved. Again, He's not being tackled. Nobody's chasing him, really. Nobody's trying to hurt him or hit him. But he moved like a guy that could be something. And then those receivers made plays. Again, not in pads, but they actually made some contested catches, which is, that's something we hadn't seen in a while. So that's all. That was all encouraging. And I thought Duffy was, to me, really stood out with a couple of those early throws. Again, he's going to learn a lot. He's going to have to grow a lot. It was his first practice and he still should be in high school. So I'm not expecting him to be a contributor even this year. But you saw a few flashes of, okay, that's why they were so high on him. So that just all that stuff. I mean, you're looking for positive stuff anyway. But we're not trying to paint puppy dogs and rainbows. We know the situation here, but I did think it looked more like a legitimate Power 5, 8-win-ish type team than it has in years. But it was one spring practice, and they didn't have pads on.
Okay, all right. Just wanted you to clarify that. I appreciate it. To your point about the amount of numbers they had, usually, so we're able to film the first 3 periods of practice, and period 3, they'll go into their tempo 11-on-11 stuff. And, it's usually good on good. And on Saturday in the IPF is where they do the first 3 or so periods. They had their 11-on-11 tempo going on, Jordan Travis leading the offense against the defense, and then Tate Rodemaker doing the same. But as I'm in the other end zone, Corey, I kind of look over my shoulder, and I'm looking outside. I'm like, what? They're doing 11-on-11 out there as well. And I'm looking out there, and A.J. Duffy's running with a full squad going up against 11
guys. I didn't
guys.
Notice that. I didn't know they did that. Oh.
So him and Geno English are outside, maybe doing the acclimation, whatever you want to call it, maybe third team, fourth team kind of stuff. And then in the IPF, they're going 11-on-11 with 1s and 2s, I guess you would say. So that's something I do not recall at all ever seeing at any point last year. So you're definitely on point when you talk about the amount of numbers, especially on the offensive line. That's really that's the big thing there, because they were sitting there, I think, on Saturday, all of us kind of talking about, oh, look at him and him playing next to each other. And then you just start talking about all these different guys they have that they feel good about, that Mike Norvell sort of volunteers information about. Lloyd Willis has a big spring ahead of him, kind of maybe that's poking, prodding him, imploring him to step up, please. We could use you. They just have so many options now at offensive line. That's something to feel really good about. That's probably that was the biggest takeaway for me, was seeing that. In addition to what I thought was really good competitive skill position receiver on defensive back, because everybody, again, they're not in pads. Pass rush is doing stuff on the far field that we were not able to really see. Plus, it's always tough to tell because everybody gets a high five afterwards. Like an offensive lineman, defensive lineman go head to head, and Odell's excited, and so is Alex Atkins. You're like, well, who won? Like both coaches can't be happy if in this situation. Somebody's got to win, somebody's got to lose. But yeah, offensive line, just the amount of dudes they have out there that we all think are pretty capable. Like Bless Harris looks like a physically capable offensive lineman at this level. I thought Lloyd Willis looked like he slimmed down a little bit. I think he actually did from what he was at last season. And then you got Maurice and you've got Caden and probably vying for the center's position. Darius Washington's a guy that Norvell was talking about on his luncheon Friday. They could play anywhere on the offensive line.
Yeah.
You just feel like you're in a much better place there. And in terms of quarterback, I do agree. I thought A.J. Duffy threw with conviction that I wasn't expecting out of a true freshman. So that was cool. Not that he's going to take the job away from Jordan Travis anytime soon, but to see a true freshman kind of come in there and seem to have a good amount of confidence in where the ball had to go, that was pretty cool, I thought. So that was sort of the big arching takeaways for me.
Yeah, and I wrote about it afterwards. Like to me, the single most impressive one play that I saw was A.J. Duffy's first throw. And it's not so much that it was a great throw, it's where he threw it and how quickly he threw it. Like, so to paint the picture, it's a 7-on-7. I think it was 7-on-7. I don't think it was 11-on-11. It was 7-on-7. It was his first snap in a college. Jordan Travis took, I think, 3 reps. Tate Rodemaker took 3 reps.
Correct.
And then A.J. Duffy goes in there. And it's 7-on-7. It's his first snap at a live college football practice. First one. And I'm judging from the other 6 throws that had been made, or I think 5 throws had been made. They were, Jordan looked good, I thought, the whole day. But he made a couple of easy throws in that first rep. Tate, didn't look great. But either way. And then A.J. Duffy takes a first snap, drops back takes in the shotgun, 2-step drop, and rips it down the middle of the field to Marquiston Douglas, right down the middle, which is where all the great quarterbacks live. And it's where all the ones that aren't great are afraid to throw, with good reason, because they make bad throws over the middle. But it's that first instinct to, okay, I'm looking at the middle of the field to a tight end, 30 yards, great seam pass. I think Douglas ended up fumbling it afterwards. Not that they were really trying to tackle, but somebody ripped the ball out. But I was like, man, what does that say about that kid? He certainly wasn't afraid. He didn't want to just be like, oh, let me take the safe pass. Let me dump it down. Let me throw it to the sideline where it can't be intercepted. There's no real danger over there. I'll give my guy a 50-50 ball. No, he steps in and rips a throw right down the seam for 25 or 30 yards or whatever it was. And I'm like, man, it's not so much the throw itself to me. It's just what it says about his mindset, perhaps. That, yeah, man, this is what I do. He's open. I'm going to throw it to him. No big deal. Like he's going to have a lot of growth. In fact, he threw an interception later in practice. I think he got hit as he threw it, and it was a deep ball that kind of fluttered up. And who made that interception?
Was that Azariah Thomas that
volleyballed
it to himself?
He tapped it to himself and made a really nice interception on what was basically a 50-50 ball, but I think it was underthrown because he got his arm hit, which do not do that, defensive linemen, even by accident. Don't hit those guys when they're throwing. But yeah, man, didn't you think? I mean, that was just what a way to like announce yourself. I don't think he's challenging Jordan Travis for the starting job. I don't even know if he's going to be the second string guy, but he is their future, they think. And man, what a great way to like just rip a throw like that. And it was on time. It was just in rhythm. It was on his body. It was just a really impressive play. To just like I said, it was like Jameis on his first play in the spring game. It wasn't so much a great throw. It was a great throw, but it was also what it said about him. Like, I'm just taking a shot. I'm throwing it. I'm going to drop it right into a bucket to a walk-on receiver against an All-American cornerback because that's how good I am. And it felt, I'm not comparing A.J. Duffy to Jameis Winston. I'm not saying he's going to be the next Jameis Winston. He's going to be better. He'll probably win 2 Heismans. Jameis only won 1 and lost his last game. A.J. Duffy ain't doing that. But I think that what that said about him and his mindset, and maybe he might just be one of those guys that just gets it and gets it quickly and understands what he's looking at. That was just really, really encouraging. You see why they're so excited about him.
Yeah, I had him going 3 of 9 in 7-on-7, so he completed 2 more after that. But definitely, I mean, it just to see a true freshman step up, make a nice throw. Again, like nobody start the A.J. Duffy usurps the throne from Jordan Travis angle yet, at least. Physically, did anybody stand out to you? I thought Jordan looked more toned. Like I don't want to say cut, and I don't want to call him soft. Like I thought he looked more defined. At least his lower body. I thought maybe not as much as his upper body, but Jordan to me, I don't know what his weight is at, but to me he just looked a little bit more of a more mature, physically developed. Is there anybody else? Not necessarily him, but did you see anybody else out there physically? Like not even doing really a play so much as just like being around them. We're like, all right, that looks different. I like that. I would put that on my football team if I was a GM.
No, and partly because like they weren't in pads, so like they're all huge dudes, and if you're next to them, they're all big football players. But I want to see what they look like in pads physically. You know, I don't know. Like I've only seen most of these guys in pads, so it's hard to compare them in just shorts and a t-shirt to what they normally look like with when they're in pads. You know what I mean? Like right, you spend a day working out with all those guys. You're boys with them. You film that workout video, so you know what all these guys look like without pads on. I don't, so that's hard for me to say. But I will say about Jordan Travis, and I wrote about this too. Not that this is going to excite too many people, maybe, but he legitimately has gotten faster, and he might be one of the fastest players on the team. Which I guess we knew that already. But he runs in a way where it doesn't look like he's all that fast, although he obviously is. But he made a play in the 11-on-11 where he ran around right edge, got around the defensive end because he's going to get around every defensive end in the country probably if it's a design. It was an RPO, but he did a pump fake and then took off down because he saw an opening, he saw a hole, and he got even. There was a DB, I think it was Akeem Dent even, that had an angle on him, and he ran by him with an angle. And Akeem Dent's really fast. And it's like, oh, man, that looked different than even what we're used to Jordan Travis looking like running-wise. And we asked him about it afterwards, and he said, yeah, Coach Storms taught me how to run the right way. Like he said his elbows used to be all over the place. He was kind of running all wild and crazy, but he got taught like a more, I don't know, efficient way to run. Yeah. But he looks even faster. I don't know. I wouldn't I don't know what his time would be. I'd guess 4.5-ish which is really fast for, well, a human being in general, but it's really fast for a quarterback too. But man, he looked faster than he's ever looked. He just looked, and I thought he looked good. I thought he looked good the whole day. Like I mentioned, Duffy. I thought Jordan Travis looked calm and composed the whole day. There were a couple plays where it looked like, okay, get rid of the ball, man. You can't hold it for that long. But I don't know if those dudes are open. He was working with, in some instances, they didn't have many of the and we're not supposed to talk about depth charts, but I won't. But he was still working with some of the older guys, even as he was going through his drills. I think sometimes those DBs were just locking up his receivers. But he didn't throw any interceptions, didn't make any horrible throws, and he made a couple really nice throws in the seam, one to Keyshawn Helton, which was a really nice throw. And again, when you add on the fact that he's always been able to run, and now he might be a little faster, that's pretty exciting too. It's just with him, it's just a matter of obviously staying healthy. But it's still, I was really impressed with him. Again, the caveat being, they were not in pads.
Yeah. To that point, I think I just counted up here 36 plays, 7-on-7 that I had logged, and the only one that I put a plus sign next to was that throw to Keyshawn Helton in 7-on-7. That stood out to me.
But it's okay to make simple throws. Now, he had a few to Ja'Kai too. I think Ja'Kai.
No, he completed a lot, but I put check marks next to completions, X's next to incompletions, and I put a check plus if I was like, that was not special, but that was not just pedestrian pitch and catch.
Right.
Piece of cake, 7-on-7, no pads.
But I like, and Duffy did it too a couple of times where it's okay. Like he threw an easy 8-yard completion. Yeah. Simple. Those things work, man. They move the chains, and this team was not good at moving the chains last year. So that was good to see by both those guys. And Douglas, I think, took one. He saw it quickly too, which is, there was a miscommunication. I think this might have even been on 11-on-11. And he threw a pass to Ja'Kai down the sideline. Nobody was near him. It was like an 8-yard completion, but it turned into like a 30-yard gain because there was nobody over there. Which again, just seeing it is the biggest thing. You can have all the arm talent in the world. If you don't see it, it doesn't matter. So he saw it, which was great, and got rid of it quick. Again, he looked so much more. He just looked more in charge of everything that he did last spring. And again, he should be. He had 10 games under his belt now. And he knows he can start at this level, so he should be confident and composed and in charge, and he was. I thought that was good to see, and he talked as much afterwards about it. Like it is a different spring for him. He's trying to be a better leader. He is being a better leader, and he knows that this is his team, and he's not threatened by Duffy. Like he could say all he want last year about Milton, and I think they did genuinely like each other and cheer for each other, but of course he was threatened by that. Milton was brought in essentially to take his job, and they had a battle. Even though they were friends or friendly, they had a battle. With A.J. Duffy, he talked about like taking him under his wing. Like he's trying to make A.J. Duffy as good as possible, which again, that's good for the program. And maybe next year, Jordan Travis will regret that decision. But right now, he's not being threatened by A.J. Duffy as a starting quarterback, so he can take him under his wing and try to make him a better quarterback.
And then wrapping up 7-on-7, again, Keyshawn was my only kind of offensive play that made me go, okay, that was pretty nice. Shout out to Renardo Green. He had 2 good plays in coverage during 7-on-7, I thought. And then Damori Tate's alive and well, everybody. He was out there. He caught the notebook. And Kevin Noles. I'm a little bit more – you got to do something incredible on offense during 7-on-7. Everything's slanted your way. I grade on a pretty strict scale there. If I was a PFF guy, it'd be tough to break into the blue and the green on me, so I have a lot of sympathy for my defensive backs. I could never play defensive back, so I really shouldn't say my defensive backs. 11-on-11, I was a little bit more generous, Corey. I did see Malik McClain he got a check plus on a play.
There you go. There you go, Malik.
Then,
he went up and made a 50-50 catch.
Yeah. Darren Williamson in that winner's circle. Micah Pittman.
He struggled, though. By the way, I remember that. I'm glad you mentioned him. Like you said, Duffy was 3 of 9. I'm almost positive Williamson dropped 2 of them, which we got to get better at that, man. You've got to raise your level because there are guys here now that will not let you get on the field. You are not going to see the field. And I thought he did. That play you're talking about in 11-on-11, which was like 20 minutes later, that's a great catch. Yeah. That was good to see, man. Do more of that.
Yeah, so Micah Pittman on there as well. And shout out to Quayshawn Fuller, had a good play. Derek McLennan came out like a freaking rocket off the
We're
line.
number
had a
9
sack.
too.
Yeah.
Something about those single digits, man. If I was a defensive lineman, that's all. Especially in end, you got to wear. Like Jermaine Johnson wore 11, which is cool. That's a sleek, slender number. Too thin lines there. You guys know the number 11. You guys have seen it before, right? I don't have to explain it to you. What am I talking to 2-year-olds? Get it together, Clark. But yeah, single digits, man, for a defensive end, that is the way to go.
It'll change your life. It'll change your life.
It changed Jared McClendon's life. I thought it was Jared Verse. I was like, man, Verse looks great. And then you're like, no, Verse is 5. That's 9. I'm like, that was Derek McClendon? Because he just destroyed that left tackle. Like, just went around him like he wasn't even there. Of course, again, it was the right tackle, actually. No pads on. It's,
Yes.
So,
Yes.
yeah. So it's a little harder for all linemen when there are no pads on.
Yeah. So, again, they'll be back at it later today. We will be out there as well. Ozari Thomas, you mentioned it. He did have the interception in 11-on-11.
But we should mention before we move on from that, because people do want to know, and will want to know for the rest of spring, the receivers didn't win every ball, didn't come close to winning every ball, but they did make some contested catches. Johnny Wilson made 2 or 3, maybe up to 4 contested-type catches in 11-on-11 and 7-on-7. Balls that maybe weren't thrown great, balls that were back shoulders, balls that were just thrown up, balls that he was heavily covered, and he ripped the ball away and made catches. Micah Pittman made at least one over the middle that was like, it was kind of like he had to go make a play. He wasn't wide open. And that was, and then I think, like you mentioned, Williamson, McLean. So that's how it works, man. Like they see these guys doing it. They see the new guys doing it, and it raises their level because you will not get on the field if you don't start making plays. Last year, they were going to get on the field regardless because of the numbers. And even then, they didn't get on the field much, but they got on the field. This year, they will be so far on the bench that they won't even be thought about if they don't go out there and make plays. And that's where it is at a lot of positions now that wasn't the case. That's why I'm encouraged about what we saw numbers-wise. And actually, receivers-wise, you can't tell with no linemen, but with no pads. But receivers-wise, that was why I encouraged what we saw overall. Is because they did make some plays.
Yeah, they didn't get bullied.
They did give it to the DBs.
Yeah,
they didn't get bullied.
Yeah.
Exactly right. No. And they're not going against an awful secondary.
No.
Like, there's some dudes over there that can play. A lot of, they've got 10 dudes that have started multiple games in that secondary. So there's a lot of experience they're going up against, and they didn't back down. And, again, that's just going to make everybody better. So that people want to know about that. I don't think they even did, touchdown plays. I don't even think there were no touchdowns really to speak of because they weren't practicing like that necessarily.
Right.
But they, Micah Pittman had 2 pretty long catches, and Johnny Wilson had 4 or 5 contested catches. And like I said, I think Douglas, Jordan likes Ja'Kai Douglas, but he might have had 100 yards receiving. And Norvell mentioned him when I was talking to him at the luncheon on Friday. He really did mention Ja'Kai Douglas as a guy that now he's a full-time receiver, and he thinks he might be ready to take another big step. And he had a couple big plays for them last year. The one before Parchment in Miami. And then he had did he have a 70 or 80 yard touchdown against Notre Dame?
Yeah.
Yeah. So he's had some plays, and maybe he's ready to take that next step. He just never needs to be a kick returner.
I wasn't out there for the special team stuff, but they're still doing it in heavy amounts. It sounded like, Corey, right? You watched all of practice.
It was probably 3 periods of it. And it was a lot of sprinting back. It was working on the blocking for the kickoff returns, sprinting back 25 yards, turning around and finding your man to block. That was what they were practicing for probably 15 minutes. Hey, we'll see if it pays off, gang. We'll see if it pays off. We didn't see anybody catch any kicks or punts. They didn't do that necessarily. So maybe that's for today.
And then one last thing before we again pivot. Sorry, Corey, didn't mean to steal your pivot, but you wrote a column, or not really a column, but you kind of you had a write-up about the luncheon on Friday, the pre-spring luncheon. We got to speak to all the assistant coaches, as well as Mike Norvell had a press conference, or he at least was up at the lectern talking to us. I liked his comments just in terms of it seems that he's, for lack of a better term, maybe embracing a sense of urgency of getting this thing better now. I did like how he said, I think, at least maybe on 2 different occasions about they're getting close. Now, he didn't say close to what, but I don't know, the way that I interpret him saying getting close is, we're going to start competing for real tangible things, like winning this division, maybe getting to Charlotte. winning a state championship, if you will. Like, how did you interpret him saying that we were close? And then I also did like the way that he mentioned towards the end about, like, they have to make a jump, and because listen, man, you're 5-7. You could be, you can go 7-5. I mean, they went 5-7 last year. You go 6-6 this season, and well, no, you wouldn't go 6-6. You make a bowl game. I mean, you go 6-7. You made it to a bowl game. You still technically have done better. You go 7-5. You've won your bowl game. You still have technically gone better. I don't sense that is the bar that he's setting. Which cool, good, because that's not my bar.
Yeah, when he said we're getting close, I think it was in regards to just the numbers, but also the depth. Getting close to having competitive practices.
You think it was more along the lines of like what he wants this roster to kind of look like, as opposed to okay.
That's what I think it meant, is like what he wants this roster to look like. I think that's how I interpret it when he said we're getting close, because they are, like we talked about. They have numbers that 95% of the team is already here practicing, which is huge. The whole I think they're only going to bring in they'll probably have a few more transfers, but I think there's only 4 high school kids that didn't come in early, 4 or 5. And then obviously all the transfers are here, unlike Parchment last year. So that's a big deal. And Gibbons, I think, for that matter. So that's a big deal too, although, of course, they'll probably get a couple after spring is over. But, that's how I interpret it. Is like, this is the roster I'm looking to have. And he was also talking about they know what the expectation is too. Like that, there's no question anymore about the guys here now. They've been here long enough to know what the standard is. I'm using Norvell speak, in the expectation, and they're getting close to the work ethic. They're getting close to the numbers that he wants out of a roster. That's what I thought he meant. Is just the overall depth and probably talent level. I mean, again, we're talking about they need more talent, but they aren't 2020, man. That was rough. They aren't 2020 anymore. This is what he envisioned his roster to kind of look like numbers wise, and to have have real competition at every position group. I would say like quarterback and linebackers. Is that it really? Where you kind of know the deal right now. What's what?
Well,
everything else is up for grabs.
Yeah, to a certain degree, yeah.
I would say this: DJ Lundy looked different.
Okay.
I thought he looked like, I don't know what his weight is. I don't know if it's just the same weight, just sculpted differently. He looked to me noticeably thinner and quicker. But I could be dumb. He also wasn't in pads, so what do I know? Maybe that's what he always looks like when he's not in pads. And then the thing, I agree with what you said when you're talking about him knowing that they need to take a step up. Like, he can hear himself saying what he's saying. Like, look, I like where we are. I'm really excited about this. I'm really excited about that. He is excited about so many things and has been for 3 years. And he's been saying it for 3 years. But this is the first time I remember him adding, now it's time to take a next step. Now it's time to take a big step. Or however he phrased it, it was something like that. Not like I'm excited where we are. Aren't I a great head football coach? It's I'm excited where we are, but it's time to go prove it. Which is what all Florida State fans want to hear, man. You can be excited about everyone under the sun, and he is, or at least says he is. But, yeah, you need to also acknowledge, and he did, what has gone on the last 2 years clearly isn't good enough, and 6-6 isn't good enough. So it is time they take another step. It is time they at least challenge for an Atlantic Division title, at least finish second in the Atlantic. So, yeah, I like the whole tone he struck the whole day at that thing. I thought he was really good.
Lundy listed at 255 last year, now listed at 239. Look at you, Clark. Look at you, Clark, with that eye.
Eagle Eye Clark is what I like to say.
Sensing.
Yeah, he did 255. Good grief, DJ. Come on, man.
He weighed more than Jermaine Johnson, who weighed in at 254, 6'5" at the combine this past weekend. He was a star on ESPN and NFL Network this weekend. Lots of people.
What did he run his 40 in? Wasn't it like 4.5 something?
4.58.
Good grief, man. That's nuts.
That's moving, man.
They should have played him at tight end. He could have gone both ways, man. At least in the red zone or in 3rd and 3, just throw it to Jermaine Johnson.
Yeah, so he definitely has improved and enhanced his stock. I think on Friday morning, even before he set those numbers, Louis Riddick on ESPN was just talking about that he's at the top of the board when it comes to defensive linemen. And there's, the Aiden Hutchinson guy from Michigan's up there. a couple other people that are kind of
the guy from Oregon, right?
Yeah, Kayvon Thibodeau as well, but he's saying that he's just every bit as good as that. He's got the versatility that he'll be able to play 4-3 end or outside linebacker in a 3-4. And, Louis Riddick, who, interviewed for the Steelers GM spot, was just saying, listen, there's room on my team for a guy like that. I mean, just really, really high effusive praise for Jermaine. Yeah. So that was kind of cool to see. He seems to have solidified himself as a first-round pick. So that's going to be quite a success story.
So I heard a cool story about Jermaine Johnson. I was talking with Fuller and Norvell at the luncheon. Actually, I just had a table to ourselves. It was just the three of us.
We ran interference on that for you. You're welcome.
Yeah, thank you, man. Thank you. I had a couple chicken empanadas. Fuller had already eaten.
What?
I can't remember what Norvell was
I thought it was hamburgers and brats.
It was, but they also had chicken empanadas because I couldn't eat. I'm not eating. I'm trying to stay away from the red meat.
Nobody told me about that. I would have had.
Yeah, they also had Nutella empanadas.
Huh.
With a little dessert empanadas. Okay, they were at the front of the line.
All right.
So anyway, I was sitting there with them, and they talked about we talked about Jermaine Johnson, and I was basically saying, look, man, that he was probably the most impactful. I know he's one of the most impactful transfers, could be potentially, that certainly that Florida State has ever had, but like in recent memory, because of it isn't normal typically for a guy to transfer from a team that eventually goes on to win the national championship. And not only helped his cause, but like became so in love with Florida State, like he embraced it. So he became a good recruiter for them. He is a big reason why they got Verse. And then also he's still, like you talked about, or they talked about, I can't remember if you talked about it or we talked about it, but they were talking about when they did that squat party thing.
Yeah.
And that Jermaine Johnson was on FaceTime with one of the guys in the room.
I think Storms mentioned it after tour duty.
That's right. That's what it was. Yeah. And it's like, man, talk about that, man. Like what that means. The Jermaine Johnson's off at the he literally was getting ready to go to the combine for one of the most important days of his life. And he's still tuned into this team that he wasn't a mercenary. Like he really did embrace Florida State and loved Florida State. And, then Fuller and Norvell were talking about how he was coming. He was after the combine was over. He was flying straight to Tallahassee to be a part of try to be a part of the festivities because they had all the players back. They had a lot of the players back. Alumni, I can't remember, Legacy Day.
Yeah, Legacy Weekend.
Legacy Weekend with all the current guys in the NFL. Most of them came. Jameis did not, but most of them did. And then Leroy Butler was here, which was awesome too. That's really cool. They were all introduced at the basketball game. But then the Jermaine Johnson was leaving Indianapolis and flying to Tallahassee to come hang out, to be a part of the team. Like that's how much Florida State means to him. And it's like, man, that's just not normal. It's crazy, really. That he was only here for 1 year. He was here for 8 months.
Yeah,
and now he's always going to be a Seminole. He's going to be when he's playing on Monday Night Football. I don't know what sometimes they say what street they were born on now.
Yeah.
But he'll probably say Florida State. That was just cool, and they could not be more effusive in their praise for him as a person and how much he really did buy in and helped lead that team. And then he fell in love with it, and still wants to be a part of it. Even now, he's going to be a first-round pick.
The clutch shot, the biggest hits. It's time for the Zaxby's Indescribably Good
Player of the Week.
You heard the man. It's time for the Zaxby's Indescribably Good Player of the Week. Spoiler alert, we already talked about him. Jermaine Johnson, come on, man. You're 6'5", 254 pounds, and then you run a 4.58 40. You jump 32 inches. Your vertical, your broad jump 10.4. Just standing in place and then jumping, exploding 10 feet in front of him. It's amazing. Jermaine's going to be our next first-round pick. And I do think he will say Jermaine Johnson, Florida State, when he's on Monday Night Football. So that gets him my nod. Corey, your pick?
Going to go with Raekwon Evans. Big senior day on Saturday. The Noles picked up the big win over a really just awful NC State team. But still, hey, a win's a win. And, earlier in the week, he had hit the 2 clutch free throws to ice the Notre Dame win because he always hits his clutch free throws, or most always, I'd say. And then on Saturday, he only had 5 points, but he had 10 assists, which I have to imagine is a career high. I could look it up, but who's got that kind of time? I'm going to go ahead and say it's a career high, and that was a really cool way for him and the other seniors to go out. So that Raekwon Evans is my choice.
Raekwon Evans, Jermaine Johnson, our Zaxby's Indescribably Good Players of the Week. Recruiting coming up right after this. He grinds. It's what he does. It's Michael Langston, here to talk recruiting. Michael, how was your weekend, man?
Busy weekend, long weekend, but a very productive one. Actually, a lot of fun too. Seeing all the former players back, that was a really fun time. So, had a great weekend.
All right, break it down for me, man. First off, there was a commitment on Saturday. Who was that? What do we need to know?
Yeah, Keith Sampson, known as mainly KJ Sampson. He's a defensive tackle out of New Bern, North Carolina. He's a guy they're very high on. Pretty much every place has him composite 4-star. He's really good. He's a guy they've wanted for a while. He actually told me he committed. Actually, he knew he was going to FSU the night before he actually visited. So I think this is kind of expected in his eyes, but I think it's a big pickup because guys in the trenches is always a big deal. I think there's several guys off this visit weekend that, probably around 4 or 5 guys that they sit really good that I think could, pop, down the line. But I think it was a very productive weekend and certainly very good for FSU.
Sampson, defensive tackle, 6'3", 285, as Michael said, somebody they definitely need in the trenches. Don't overwhelm. Everybody needs to pay for your information because you spend countless hours out front of the Moore Center with our guy, Austin Cox. What are a couple of the names? I know Chris Parson was in town. Well, he was in town, right? That's a good thing.
Yes.
People thought that maybe he broke up with us because he took us off his social media, but he still got love. So he was in town. Who else? Who are some of these new emerging sort of targets? We just have to – we got to figure this stuff out now as fans because the recruiting cycle is just so much more sort of just condensed. Who are a couple of the guys? Give us maybe 3 dudes that you think might have been the more high-prized targets that were on campus this weekend.
Yeah, I'll start with the position. I think, there was so many talented guys. I would say defensive tackle Will Norman. He's a Rouse 100 player. He's certainly a top guy that was on campus. Another one is 4-star defensive end Wilkie Denard. If I was going to make a pick of a guy that could be next, that's the guy. He visited for a few days at FSU. Vic Burley, another defensive tackle. As you notice, I've named already 3 guys. And then Jordan Hall was another defensive tackle that visited FSU. I think FSU did really good with all these guys. I think they made a big impression. So I think those guys. And then the offensive line, Roderick Kearney was there. I think he already told us FSU's number 1. Tyler Jeffries is another one. He said FSU's number 1. And then today, Kelton Smith visited. He said FSU's number 1. So that's 3 guys that already FSU's in the number 1 spot. And then today, wide receiver Hakeem Williams visited. And then yesterday, the big one was wide receiver Brandon Ennis, 5-star out of South Florida. He also visited. Running back Dalen Smothers, 4-star running back. I think FSU sits pretty good with him as well. And to go along with Chris Parsons. So that kind of gives you – I only named a few.
Holy smokes, you named like a dozen, Michael.
Yeah. So it was a loaded group of guys this weekend. A lot of elite talent on campus. And I think – and I told Ira this and Tom on the SmackDown. It was really the juice was added to this weekend because of, in my opinion – the former players being back. They spent a lot of time talking to these recruits. I think they had meetings where they could conversate and, pick their brains of things that, they went through. And I think that was added juice to this weekend of having, legends that have played at FSU, guys like Leroy Butler, who are, he's a Hall of Famer, and just guys that have played for national championships like Christian Jones and PJ Williams. And even guys that they can even relate to even recently, in a guy like Asante Samuel, who's tearing it up with the Chargers. So I think that really added some big time spice to this weekend and made it even more special.
Michael, do you think has the staff moved past the wait and see approach in terms of or a lot of these? I mean, a lot of these players that you're naming, man, these are 4-star Rivals 100 guys. Will Norman, 4-star, number 76 in the nation. Wilkie Denard, 6'4", 245-pound defensive end. Man, these are elite guys. Do they need to wait and see what Florida State's going to do, or do you think that in terms of at least what Mike Norvell and the staff wants to do recruiting high school kids, they're going to get who they want before the season starts?
I think they're going to get some guys, but I think there's some guys like Brandon Ennis who want to see a few more wins, a little more, moving a little bit higher to where they were. They're not expecting FSU to have to win 10 or 11 games or stuff like that, but they're just expecting them to win a little more consistently. They kind of saw that in flashes with North Carolina and certainly the Miami game, which everyone circles. But I think kids do want to see to take the next step and keep going forward. But I think a lot of these kids are going to commit because they're sold on the vision of where they're going. They're sold that, hey, this is about to take off, and I want to be a part of this. And I think a lot of kids are already at that point. I think there's a few in there that will probably want to see, how they perform, as far as wins and stuff like that. But the visit weekends for a lot of these kids, like when they play Clemson and they play Florida, they're going to be ridiculous. How much talent's going to be, on display. And I think we're past the, are they going to be decent? I think FSU's shown the step forward of where they're going. And I don't think it's going to be a backwards thing. I think it's going to be, you get a little more each year, maybe a lot more. We'll see how, things mesh in the spring football and how they do, the early parts of the season. But I think a lot of kids are sold on where it's going. It's not so much now. It used to be like last 2 years. It's kind of like, well, let's see if they can win and then I'll go visit them. They're not doing that now. Yeah, now they're like, hey, we feel like it's about to blow up and about to take off. And this is a place that I feel like I need to jump on board because they're about to get hot.
We're legitimately, Michael, we're legitimately 9 months away from the early signing period. And they had this huge weekend, right? They blew it out. They called it an elite weekend. They've made it legacy weekend, bringing all these new NFL guys coming in. Yep. What do they want to – I mean, there's such a long time between now and December. These kids can change their mind. What do they hope they got out of this weekend then? Is it just to keep Florida State in mind? Is it to make Florida State a leader? Is this part of Norvell's just sort of – just entire approach of getting on these guys early and just maintaining relationships?
I think it was a combination of they did a great job organizing. I mean, the people that organized the event, getting all these former players there, but I think also they knew there would be the basketball game. They knew there was definitely a lot of things that they could do with these kids. But I think the main thing is they wanted to show hey, this is where the steps we are of where our product is with the first practice. Because I mean, kids love seeing the first practice because the intensity is high. They want to be the first to show them, and a lot of these kids, they're elite guys like Brandon Ennis. I mean, that was the first school he wanted to go see. So to see FSU first says a lot, and I think this weekend was the weekend they circled to get the A-list guys. Not that there's not other A-list guys, but I think a lot of these guys, they want to get A-list guys to show them, hey, this is the growth that what we've done in our program. This is, the difference between what we were, a year ago, not just with transfers, but just the way we're developing these players, the way we're getting them ready to, take the next step as far as being more consistent and winning. And I think that was a big deal for them to get a lot of these elite guys, and a lot of credit goes to, Ryan Bartow and Kenyatta Watson. They really put together this group of guys to get here. Yes, the coaches did chip in and certainly talk to it and got these kids on campus, but those two really orchestrated this weekend to get all these guys here and then let the coaches work their magic. And then also Chris Parson was a big part of helping that, where he was communicating with, different recruits. So I think everyone had a piece in it, but I think Kenyatta and Ryan really helped orchestrate this whole thing to get it together with all these elite guys.
So what now? Does the staff coast kind of into the rest of spring football, or is this going to be something we're going to see throughout, you think, with just them having practices and wanting to get kids on campus?
Well, I'm going to be at Moore Athletic Center almost every day, so I'll let you that kind of pretty much answers your question. I won't be there tomorrow on Monday, but I will be there just about every other day because they're going to have guys up there every day. I think Cedric Baxter, another elite player, running back, is going to be there on March 9th, and there's going to be guys there every day. We've added a lot of new guys that were kind of last-minute additions to this group. Guys like, Hakeem Williams, guys like Vic Burley, who you already covered. These are guys that were added late that they got over to campus. So I think that's good. You're going to see more elite guys both in the month of March and in April. Certainly the spring game is going to be extremely well attended as far as recruits. So I don't think this is going to slow down, even when it might slow down after the month of April. But when we get to June and July, then you have the summer camps, the mega camps. They're going to have tons of kids there. So I think this is going to go on till probably, at least August. We'll have to see if Norvell puts together like an elite camp like he did last year in the summer, where we went and all the elite guys were out there going one-on-one. So I think you'll see probably that. So I think this is going to go all the way to probably the start of the season, and then kind of let your product take it from there as far as your game weekends and who you host. So I think it's going to lead all the way up to the summer.
Vic Burley, 4-star defensive end out of Warner Robins, 6'4", 275, rivals 50. He's the 50th top prospect in the nation. Anything catch you by surprise just this weekend? Last thing I'll ask you, Michael, before I get you out here. Anything catch you kind of by surprise, or what was maybe the most impressive part of the entire weekend for you in Austin?
I mean, I always circle back to, I listed them off, the defensive tackles, to get that many on campus. That's such a hard position to recruit because there's not a lot of them. So they got a lot of elite guys. That was kind of really one of my big takeaways, that they got so many on campus. We know Alex Atkins does a great job with the offensive line. And then the skill guys, there's tons of, Santana Fleming, Hakeem Williams, Brandon Ennis, a lot of guys that are top skill guys. So I think overall that kind of surprised me, the level of quality that they had throughout the week. And I think my biggest takeaway was the juice that came from the former players being there. I mean, that was such a big it just gave a rocket ship of a launch to this weekend. And that was kind of my biggest takeaway, was how impactful the former players were.
Yeah, and Marvin Wilson was there too, everybody.
Yep.
So maybe chill out hating him so much. Hakeem Williams, 4-star receiver, 6'4", 205 out of Stranahan High School down there in Fort Lauderdale. Brandon Ennis, he's a 5-star. All right, Michael, go take a nap or something. Appreciate the time, man.
I appreciate it, bud.
We'll have a live chat, Michael and I, later this week, so stay tuned for that. Thanks again, Michael.
You got it, man.
All right, let's bring Corey back in. Last you heard from him, he was talking about how awesome Raekwon Evans was. That's because Florida State was victorious on Saturday in their regular season finale, just whooping up on NC State. Beautiful thing. Felt nice, right, Corey? Felt nice to take them down, 89-76. On to Brooklyn, on to Syracuse. But again, any last sort of final thoughts after notching a nice home win? What is that, 3-game win streak we got going into the postseason? Yeah. I like it. Feeling all right.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's going to be a lot of magic in Brooklyn. We don't know about, Caleb Mills he came back and had a really good game. I think he had 19 points maybe, but then hurt his ankle. He seemed to re-injure maybe that ankle with like 3 minutes left, and there's no telling. I mean, the way Florida State's season is going, why would you expect it not to be anything awful? Of course it's going to be. But so if he can't play, that's going to be, obviously it's a tough ask to beat Syracuse with one of your best shooters not there. But either way, man, just a really cool finish to the season, because, again, you remember where they were and how upset I was legitimately mad watching that North Carolina game. Yeah. Not as mad as those Duke fans were on Saturday night. Good grief. That was crazy. Like, they're 19-year-olds going to Duke. Your life's good. And they're nothing but crying going on in the student section. That was nuts to see. But
life's
it was also
not fair,
awesome
kids.
To see.
Welcome to the real world. Your education,
exactly right, man.
Learn it there.
Exactly right. That was all. It was really actually very cool to see. I don't know why I enjoyed it so much, because I don't hate Duke like other people, and I don't hate K like other people do. But that was just, for whatever reason, really enjoyable. Like, Christian Laettner was sad, JJ Redick was sad, all in one place together.
Waking up Saturday afternoon, I'm like, it'd be kind of cool. Actually, Saturday morning, I wasn't that big of a bum. Practice was at 10 in the morning. I had to wake up in the morning. I was like, it'd be kind of funny if Mike Krzyzewski loses. I'm like, I think I want him to lose. And then when he lost, I'm like, oh, I feel bad. I'm like, I hope I didn't put that into the – like, I felt bad. It's like, just let the guy win the last one at home. But then, you saw them get mad at Hubert Green and Hubert Green. We're not talking about golf.
Hubert Davis. Yeah.
And then the handshake line. I'm like, all right, Duke being Duke. Screw
Duke.
It's
just what Duke does. It's, don't get happy because you won a big game. This is our moment. Even though we let you score 90 and lost, it's our moment. Quit celebrating and be in North Carolina.
I like Kay though. Like, this is, he like breaks up the entire sort of ceremony at the start. Like, this is me going impromptu. It's not part of the program. That was unacceptable. And everyone's like, oh, stop. Don't be so hard on yourself. Like, stop talking, everybody. He's like, let me finish. He's like, tonight was unacceptable.
Yeah.
But the season's been very acceptable. It's like, yeah, all right, attaboy. All right, so.
Yeah, K's always going to be K. But, so that game, just finishing this season with a 3-game winning streak, because that North Carolina game was so just disgusting. You were down 40 points, and you weren't competing at all. You had it was just the most bizarre thing to watch. And then they followed it up with, I think they beat Clemson the next game, but then they followed that up with the ugly loss at Boston College where they just handed the ball to guys. It just wasn't Florida State. And so I don't know. And look, they got a lot of work to do defensively. That kid for NC State scored 30 on them with 0 assists, by the way, which is always a great stat. I'm sure that's a fun team to be a part of. They had 3 guys take all the shots and score all the points, and none of them like to pass.
They only played 7 guys.
Yeah. I mean, they had 3 dudes that can really play. Can really score. I don't know if they can do anything else, but they can score. But that's all they got. But yeah, so but then to come back with that crazy win at Virginia, even if he doesn't hit the miracle shot, just the way they competed and believed, and then to beat Notre Dame, which is always a bad matchup for Florida State, to somehow win that game, and then come back and put up 90 in the home finale against a bad team, that's just it's cool to see. It does bode well for the future. You can see some stuff with Worley, Butler, and Cleveland. Like, okay, that could be something. Maybe Polite comes back. Maybe I think it might. Maybe Osborne comes back. Hamilton was a little vague about. He did say one of the seniors that has eligibility remaining might come back. He just didn't say who. We believe it's between Polite and Osborne, but that'd be great to get one of those guys back for sure to go along with this core that now has it's seen what happens when you don't compete because you get embarrassed and you're down 40. And they've also seen what happens when you do play hard and compete and play with confidence. And they've won 3 in a row, so they got good feels too. And they won 3 in a row without being bailed out by a bunch of seniors. Although Polite played really well on Saturday too, with that big wrap on his hand.
Yeah,
broken.
That didn't even slow him down at all.
12 points, 10 rebounds. Just the guys turned into a good player. Yeah, that's right. So yeah, I don't know what they're going to do in Brooklyn. That's going to be a road game. It's in Brooklyn. I assume Syracuse will have a decided crowd advantage.
That's noon. It's noon on a Wednesday. They're all busy working.
And even if they win that game, then you play Duke, who again, it's New York, so it's going to be a very pro Duke crowd. So I'm not expecting a great showing up there, but not because they're not going to compete or try. They're just not quite good enough right now. They just aren't. Wilkes and Prieto are still playing lots of minutes. Love them to death. Good guys. Good Noles, have been through a lot of wars and have been in the locker room of a lot of winning teams and a lot of great moments at this school. But it's not great when you're playing in the ACC games and those guys are logging 18, 20 minutes. So even still, really cool for them to get a win on Senior Day and to close out the season like this. Because I thought there was a chance, especially when you're losing at home to Pitt. Virginia Tech hit 1,000,000 threes. It's like, man, are they going to win another game this year? I don't know if they're going to win another game this year with all these injuries. And then they won 4 down the stretch, including 3 in a row. Now, they were all by like a point, except for the last one, but they won. And that's really big as you're moving towards the future because you want this to be a hiccup and not what it is. You just want this to be a hiccup caused by injuries, which now it looks like it was. Like they probably weren't going to win the ACC, even if they'd stayed completely healthy. And they weren't going to be a 2 seed in the NCAA tournament, but they could have been a 6 seed or a 5 seed. They would have probably won 21, 22 games, and even that would have been a down year for Florida State. So anyway, just much more encouraged now with these 3 wins and the way they played than I was just so despondent after that North Carolina game. I just couldn't believe what I was watching. So credit to them, credit to that coaching staff, and credit to those players for rallying back.
And since we last talked, Cameron Fletcher joined the MASH unit that is this team with a season-ending injury. So they'll be even that much more hamstrung going up against Duke if they can make it past Syracuse. So they'll take on Syracuse Wednesday at noon. It's on ESPN. Hot take: if they can get past Syracuse, if they get past Duke, I think they'll win the tournament, and I think they'll be in.
They only got to beat Syracuse and Duke.
Yeah, that's it. Piece of cake.
All right.
So
I agree with you. I'm going to say that too. I think if they beat Duke, they're going to win the tournament.
Okay. That will be noon, sleepy noon Thursday, New York City. Maybe that's what they, Duke. maybe they're. I'm sure Michael K. I have a buddy whose name is Michael K. But I'm sure K is going to put the screws to them. Maybe they'll have a mutiny. They're like, all right, we're not going to win for you. We're not going to win for you. Then they can rally for him in the big dance. Don't waste
That's
your bullets.
usually what
now.
happens with K's teams too. Is the mutiny,
complacency. Yeah. Baseball hosted Cal this weekend from the Pac-12. Cal Berkeley, the Golden Bears. Big wins Friday, Saturday, walk-off fashion Friday night, 4-3. Freshman James Tibbs with the RBI to bring home the win for Florida State. They did take the series, winning on Friday and Saturday, fall in extras on Sunday. That's their third extra inning game of the season, most in the ACC. Sundays are weird. You do want to see a sweep, but I thought the big takeaway from Sunday was at least that Ross Dunn battled his rear end off. I mean, he had like a perfect game going through 4 innings, but I think he had thrown something like close to 65 pitches or so going into the fourth, which is bizarre. He was just, he wasn't walking anybody, but like every single batter he faced, it feels like it was like a 10-pitch at bat. But they fall in extras on Sunday. You were there Saturday and Friday, I think, too, Corey. But when we were talking Saturday at Hauser, you kind of mentioned that this bullpen needs to start kind of living up to the hype, the advertising that we had heard about just how talented they were, how much arm talent they had in the bullpen. And I did ask Meade about that after the game on Saturday, and he was like, no, man. He's like, I know what he got. He's like, I'm cool with it, which I was like, I'm surprised. I thought he'd be a little bit more critical of them. But, Scolaro comes in Sunday, doesn't have a lot of help behind him defensively, but still can't get out of the inning and clean things up. And they're throwing a lot of new arms out there. We saw Dylan Simmons go out Saturday and, give up some runs in the 9th inning. They had plenty of cushion, but still, let's just get out of this game quickly. Any other lingering concerns for you, or is this overall a positive week because, again, Parker Messick, Bryce Hubbard, when they are on the mound, this team is just really tough to beat?
Yeah, no, I thought Friday nights was an important win because it was a come-from-behind win and it was a close win. It's the only one they've won this year. And then, again, they're now 0-3 in extra innings. That should not happen when you should have the advantage in the bullpen. But they don't have the advantage in the bullpen right now. And I wrote a story about it on Warchant, just an overall recap of the weekend. And there are 4 starting pitchers. I threw Montgomery in there too. The 4 guys that have started games for them have a combined ERA of 1.68, which is incredible. It's really good. The bullpen, the rest of the team has an ERA of 4.70, which isn't horrible for a college bullpen.
Yeah.
But it's not what we were led to believe this was going to be. Sunday, you had your starter goes 6 innings and gives up 1 hit, no runs, strikes out 11. Then immediately Crowell comes in, walks 2 guys, gives up a hit. Everybody that came in gave up. Didn't
Davis Hare plunks a guy?
Yeah, but I mean that was a little questionable there. His first outing of the year, and you put him in with the bases loaded. I don't know if I necessarily agreed with that, but and then he got out of the inning after giving up the lead with the hit by pitch, but then walked the next guy to start off the inning. And they just the bullpen they have Crowell throws mid-90s, and he's walking guys on sliders in the dirt. Like at some point, challenge a team, man. And that was what was so frustrating about Sunday is that Davis Hare hit a kid. He threw a 95-mile-an-hour fastball for strike 1. The kid fouled it or popped it up foul. And the next pitch, I think he threw a breaking ball and just hits the kid in the hip. It's like, man, if you're throwing mid-90s, throw mid-90s. See if they can hit it. Now they will. They're going to catch up on some. But, you do everything off your foul. It just feels like sometimes these relievers go in there and they're trying to be perfect. And you can't be perfect. Throw strikes. And so that gets frustrating. Quit getting behind in the count. Scolaro was doing that too a couple times. Scolaro was fine on Friday. But, yeah, on Sunday he wasn't great either, although they gave the kid a hit, I think. But Jackson Green he got to make that play. But either way, that's my biggest concern is the bullpen. Because I'll say it again. When Hubbard and Messick start, they are now 6-0. Every other game, they're 1-4. That's a bad trend. They're losing midweek games. Go win midweek games. It's not like you're facing Jacksonville's number 1 or Mercer's number 1. Your bullpen should be able to beat, because that's what these games become, essentially are bullpen games. There's no excuse for Florida State's bullpen to lose to Mercer and Jacksonville. There just isn't. They don't have the arms that you have, so go pitch like it. And it's early. We're 11 games in. We're only 20% of the season, so I grant all of that, but it's getting a little frustrating to watch the bullpen continue not to be lights out. because there is talent down there. The whole team throws in the mid-90s, and some of them have pretty nasty breaking stuff. But if you can't locate it or throw it for strikes, it doesn't matter. And right now you wonder, who's the guy? Like who, say Friday night they have a 3-1 lead in the 8th inning against Wake Forest in their first ACC game. Who do you trust to get those final 6 outs? And now Meat will say he trusts all of them, which is fine, but none of them have proven that they should be trusted yet. Except what's the guy's name? Nizu has been really good. But other than that, I mean, Crowell's got talent. Davis Hare has talent. That was his first outing of the year because he had like a dead arm thing, but he was throwing mid-90s. They all have talent. Scolaro has talent. Scolaro's done it on this stage multiple times. He just hasn't had a great start to this season. But that's what I worry about is you're gonna have these 2 great starting pitchers, maybe in a third really good one, maybe 4 really good ones, and but you're not going to be able to win You're not going to be able to win any midweek games or Sunday games because Messick and Hubbard aren't pitching. I don't like that trend right now, but it's early.
Yeah. Offensively, they're not doing all that great offensively either.
No.
That's kind of a little bit more of a concern, especially when you kind of point out the ERA. I mean, yeah, like 4 or 5 out of your pen, in college, not the worst. But I mean, they're outside the top 100 in offense right now. And they're relying on a lot of young guys. I mean, these freshmen, which James Tibbs has a walk-off on Friday. Jaime Ferrer had a 10-game hit streak that came to an end on Sunday. Trent Rank's a guy that is maybe splitting time with Jackson Green in the middle. Well, actually, a little bit of Tibbs in there as well.
Logan Lacey had a couple. He had a bomb on Saturday. Yeah. Good grief.
Yeah, everybody, look at the envision in your mind the scoreboard at Hauser, and then above the scoreboard it says Florida State University, and then above State there's the Seminole head logo. I mean, it's centered up. I mean, if this was like Rock and Jock baseball, that would have been like a 10-point home run. He tagged one that went right off the Seminole head. It was incredible. It was incredible.
Yeah, but they struck out 59 times in the week, including Mercer.
How many?
That's just 59.
59?
Yeah, they averaged 15 strikeouts a game through those 4 games, including Mercer. It's just this has to stop, and maybe it's not going to stop because they strike out that many too. But it's everybody. It's not like one guy's going 0 for 4 with 4 Ks. They're all striking out once or twice in pretty important spots. I bring it up because Cal, they struck out a ton too. So I'm not going to sit here and act like they weren't free swingers as well. But Cal, I think Cal was facing better pitching. Like Messick and Hubbard are probably major league pitchers, so it makes sense that they strike out a lot of guys. But they also occasionally, with 2 strikes, would slap a ball. They'd slap a ball to beat the shift. Messick gave up a run on Friday just because they slapped the ball to where the shift wasn't. And you're not seeing a ton of at-bats like that from Florida State right now. Now, again, some of them are just, Reese Albert's kind of coming down to earth. Logan Lacey, I think, is hitting a little bit of bad luck, but he touched some balls. He had that long home run, and then the Brock Mathis kid hit a ball even further than that. Toral had a couple of nice at bats, had a long home run to tie it up on Friday, which was big for him and the team. But overall, yeah, the offense is still striking out too much. So I think the defense is pretty good. Carry-on is a huge upgrade at short from what they've had in years.
Whoa, yes.
He's really good, but it hasn't been great, the defense. So I think, but it's been better. The making contact has not been better, and the bullpen really has not been all that much better at all. So those are things you just want to see start to improve. Again, it's March, so it's no time to panic, but they do need to improve. The fielding needs to get even better, and then the bullpen has to find itself. And then you got to make a change at catcher. I'm at that point now.
Okay. Yeah, Brock Mathis hit a home run on Saturday and was promptly put back on the bench to start Sunday. Colton Vincent.
Not just a home run. He had a 453-foot home run, and then also ripped a double down the line. I think his next at bat. Colton Vincent, he's hitting 114, and he has not walked this year either. So his on-base percentage is 114. His slugging percentage is 139. And then the kid behind him hit a 450-foot home run. So that tells you quite obviously what they think of Brock Mathis's defense. It's not good.
But Colton Vincent had a couple. I mean, he's not Yadier Molina back there either.
That's what I'm saying. That Colton Vincent has not looked like a brick wall either. And I think he had a pass ball and there were 2 other wild pitches. He has 4 pass balls on the year, which seems like a lot in 10 games, which is what he's played. That seems like too much. So if he's not going to be Molina behind the plate, you can't have him. I don't think you can hit him. Your offense isn't good enough to have a dead out at the end of the lineup. Yeah. If they were all hitting well, yeah, you could live with a defense first catcher that hits 150 or 180 or whatever. But he's not doing that. I just think you got to get Mathis in there. And I think to that point, to lead off the 10th inning, it was Colton Vincent went 0 for 3 with 3 strikeouts on Sunday. And when he was due up to start the 10th inning, down by 2 runs, they pitch hit Jimenez, I think, who had 2 at-bats all year. So that kind of tells you maybe Meat's already made that up in his mind. It's like we need some offense, and we can't keep doing this. So we'll see. I assume Mathis would start on Tuesday, and then you go from there. Now, look, he's not getting a home run every game. Yeah. There's a reason he transferred, and he's not. But he's just such an upgrade. He's a guy that once a weekend might change a game. Yeah. Colton Vincent can't do that, and Vincent hasn't been good enough defensively to offset what you're losing on offense. So again, that's probably enough about baseball here in early March. But yeah, I had some opinions, so I shared them, folks. What are you going to do?
Tyler Martin came back in Friday night, pinch hit, got a walk on 4 pitches, so that could possibly change the way they look. So that's pretty encouraging too. So
I did ask Meat. After the game on Sunday. He said that because I guess they were thinking about doing that again on Sunday, and he said that Tyler woke up really sore, and so it's going to be up and down. He's not sure. It might literally be day to day whether he can give it a go or not.
All right, then, so let's go to softball. All good things come to an end. Florida State rips off the season with 19 victories. Comes to an end on Sunday. But, hey, they took the series from Pitt. Again, can't win them all, so they're now 19-1 on the season. Friday night, they win 3-0, thanks to Sidney Sherrill's 3-run homer. Saturday, they actually they run-ruled Pitt, win that 1-10-zip. And then Sunday kind of falls short, 7-5 on Sunday again. So they're just doing what they're doing, Lonnie and the gals, winning games, doing it all sorts of different ways. Again, they run rule, they grind one out, and then Sunday they just fall a little bit short. So no panic over here needed when it comes to softball at the Plex. You were at the Plex on what, Friday night, Corey?
Friday night, yeah.
Look at
you.
I got
I went over there. Stephanie had her kids, so I was like, I got a Friday night. I'll go watch a little softball, and then headed over to baseball. So I got to see 2 wins that night, and that was fun. It's a fun game, man. It's fun to go to, and they're energetic. They're quick. Well, it wasn't all that quick. It was 2 hours. They can be quicker than that, but it's just it's a fun time, and I had great seats. I kind of snuck in. I didn't have great seats. I went and just sat down right behind home plate because that's where Tom and Jamie were. Tom Lang, the great Tom Lang, and his bride. And yeah, had a good time. It was fun. I think I was on TV a lot too.
Yeah,
because I was literally right behind home plate.
Oh, were you?
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, Saturday's games weren't on television, which a lot of people were sort of griping about.
Baseball either, like nothing was.
Yeah.
Come on, gang, let's get it together, guys.
Yeah, I don't know what happened, man. Maybe football. Maybe they had people up in Indianapolis helping out with stuff.
I think it was something to do with Seminole Productions just didn't have enough bodies to broadcast on Saturday for some reason, but they were back at it on Sunday. Good for them.
Yeah, so they'll be back in action Wednesday, taking on Furman. So good luck to the Paladins. They're going to feel it.
Oh yeah, I was going to say
Tuesday.
The Noles are going to be upset.
Tuesday. It's Faculty and Staff Appreciation Day, 6 p.m.
Oh, good. Is this the same time as the baseball game? So do what I did and hit both up.
There we go. And there won't be any football, so we can focus everything on that. So they'll go Monday, Wednesday, Friday football team. We'll be back out there then, Corey.
We will,
today.
And we're going to have a live show at some point, right?
Yeah, and we're going to have a recruiting show. So
probably should do the live show Tuesday night, right?
I was thinking I'd rather do it after football practice. It'd be easier for me. We just come in here and just roll and do that instead of.
Yeah, but I got to write after practice.
All the time.
I mean,
what's the chauffeur guy doing?
We could, right? Nothing. Just stealing money from Gene. I mean, if practice is at 4, we get interviews at what 6:30.
Yeah.
So I'm not even back to my house, even if I'm not writing till 7:30. So that's an 8 o'clock show.
We're not Matlock. People stay up past 8 o'clock to hang out.
All right, hey, you're right. You're right. We could try that, but I do have to write, man. So I would think that would take precedence. So I thought Wednesday.
How about Wednesday night? Because Monday you'll write. It's a big deal. It's day 3 Wednesday.
Okay, I see what you're saying. All right, well, hey, we can do it Wednesday night. That's cool. I can do it.
We'll see.
We'll hammer it out.
We'll hammer it out.
All right,
buddy.
But hey, for you guys, we're going to be doing a live show.
Yes, that's right. And then Michael Langston will have a recruiting show answering the questions that you might have after you heard him on the show earlier today. In the meantime, though, Jeff Cameron, 1 to 3 o'clock. Practice starts at 4. Interviews at 6:30. So after you had your supper, told your kids how much you love them, go to Warchant. Tell Corey Ira how much you love them. All the content they'll be cranking out over at warchant.com. He's Corey. I'm Aslan. Thank you for listening to Wake Up Warchant, presented by Corner Pocket Bar and Grill.